Trustees say the village is facing financial disaster, and they blame the mayor for mismanagement. She says this is all just political.
Despite multiple interview requests, Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard has yet to respond. Earlier today, I attempted to find her in person, but village employees confirmed that while many were aware of the worsening situation, they hadn't expected things to spiral out of control the way they did under Lori Lightfoot, leaving millions in debt. In the weeks leading up to this, Henyard reportedly assured that the banks in Dalton and Thornton Township would be drained before she left office. Since news of the FBI investigation broke, citizens have repeatedly called for her resignation, yet she has remained in office. Her career has been overshadowed by long-standing allegations of corruption and favoritism.
We've learned from multiple sources that federal agents are in fact interviewing witnesses as part of a possible investigation that may or may not.
A few months later, in what many are calling an act of retaliation against former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, both of Dalton's bars were raided and shut down last night. The day before, we had visited both establishments as part of an ongoing investigation into political corruption allegations in Dalton. According to witnesses, Dalton police officers arrived in full force, surrounding Pablo's Bar and Cafe and Rinky Bar and Cafe, two locations situated only a block apart. They just rushed in here, put police at the front like it was a drug house or something, one customer said. Despite the heavy police presence, everything had been calm beforehand. Customers were ordered to leave or face arrest, and both businesses had their licenses stripped by the village of Dalton. Business owners and employees claim the raid is part of a broader, ongoing campaign of harassment by Mayor Tiffany Henyard. They argue that her actions are financially devastating, costing jobs and revenue. Henyard's office has consistently worked to undermine efforts to hold her accountable, notably attempting to discredit the FBI's investigation into her alleged corruption with dismissive and degrading remarks. However, Henyard's efforts to minimize the significance of the investigation were met with a firm, unified response from the Dalton Board of Trustees. The board swiftly voted against her stance, reinforcing their commitment to upholding ethical standards and ensuring transparency. This decisive action demonstrated the board's resolve to prioritize accountability, integrity, and the community's trust over Henyard's attempts to trivialize the investigation. Their rejection of her efforts made it clear that the village would not tolerate leaders who undermine accountability or avoid scrutiny. The trustees made it known that they would act in the best interest of the public, setting a strong precedent for future leadership. As tensions continued to escalate in the aftermath of these events, one of the village's packed meetings saw Henyard facing mounting pressure. Trustees passed a resolution demanding she turn over the village's financial records and formally asked the FBI to investigate her alleged misuse of village funds. Henyard did not back down, admitting only to a $2 million deficit, but denying any responsibility for the financial troubles facing Dalton. Instead, she maintained her innocence, particularly when responding to accusations that she was anti-black or anti-female. Despite growing scrutiny, the mayor has attempted to deflect criticism, including from residents questioning her controversial Las Vegas trip. Reports indicate that Henyard used public funds for a lavish trip to Las Vegas, covering expenses for airfare, accommodations, and dining. She has repeatedly avoided providing clear answers about the trip, instead offering vague justifications such as referencing secret screw-ups that she has yet to elaborate on. The Board of Trustees, however, is not letting these issues slide. They have vowed to override Henyard's veto of a resolution meant to hold her accountable. Trustee Kiana Beller took a notable stance at the meeting by displaying her own portrait, which she claimed had been removed from Village Hall. Beller accused Henyard of using delays and excuses to cover up the truth, remarking that it was obvious to everyone what was happening under her leadership. Despite these growing concerns, Henyard has continued to impose increasingly restrictive measures at village meetings, such as pushing media members to the back of the room and limiting public comment. However, residents have not been silenced. At the meeting, citizens made their frustrations known loud and clear, demanding that Henyard step down as mayor and take responsibility for the financial mess she has caused. One attendee spoke directly to Henyard, saying, "You lie to us, as residents. You do not stand for me, and I want you to step down as mayor today and save our village from this deficit you have caused." Many other residents echoed these sentiments, arguing that Henyard had refused to take accountability for her actions and had instead shifted blame onto others while failing to address her own mistakes. Criticism also grew over her media appearances, which many saw as attempts to create drama rather than focus on the village's needs. Henyard's appearances on television only seemed to further damage her credibility, eroding public trust and reinforcing concerns about her leadership. Public trust has eroded even further, with many feeling that Henyard was deflecting rather than addressing real issues. When directly questioned about the Las Vegas trip, Henyard denied handling the credit card charges in question, although some expenses were reportedly for her benefit. A resident confronted her, asking, "You didn't go to Las Vegas? What is that? You don't know if you were in Las Vegas?" Henyard's response to these allegations has only fueled the anger of residents, who remain unconvinced by her explanations. The situation in Dalton is growing more tense by the day. Under Henyard's leadership, the village has not only faced financial deficits, but has also seen a significant erosion of trust in its government. As tensions reached their peak, the village held a chaotic and heated meeting where the board presented clear evidence of Henyard's mismanagement and called for change. Despite Henyard's insistence that these criticisms were exaggerated or one-sided, the mounting pressure from residents and officials signals that a tipping point is near. The village's residents are no longer willing to accept Henyard's deflections or evasions. They are demanding leadership that is transparent, accountable, and focused on restoring fiscal stability and public trust. The growing scrutiny of Henyard's actions, particularly surrounding the Las Vegas trip and her mishandling of village finances, suggests that her time in office may be running out. The Board of Trustees has made it clear that they will continue to hold her accountable, and residents have made their voices heard. They are tired of the excuses and are pushing for a change in leadership that can begin to heal the deep divisions and financial instability that Henyard has left behind. The stakes have never been higher, and it remains to be seen whether Henyard can weather the storm or if Dalton will demand a new path forward, one centered on transparency, accountability, and integrity.
To us as residents, you do not stand for me, and I want you to step down as mayor today and save our village from this deficit that you have caused.
The mayor can blame everybody for what's going on, but she has to look at herself. Nobody told her to get on TV and lie like that.
Everybody cares about the person that's making the...
Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard's leadership has come under increasing scrutiny, particularly regarding her controversial Las Vegas trip. When confronted about her lavish spending, Henyard initially deflected and provided evasive answers. She acknowledged the trip but refused to clarify whether taxpayer dollars had funded her first-class flights, accommodations, or other extravagant expenses. Her dismissive tone and lack of transparency only heightened concerns. When pressed for details about public funds, she claimed to have already answered the questions, offering little clarity on the matter. Henyard shifted the narrative by invoking Black History Month, emphasizing her role as the first African-American female mayor of Dalton. She reminded critics of Martin Luther King Jr.'s vision, casting herself as a leader fulfilling a mission. Henyard accused her detractors of failing to recognize her contributions, claiming that fellow African-Americans should be ashamed for criticizing her rather than supporting her. She promised large-scale initiatives, such as $1 million program to assist residents with mortgages and rent, presenting herself as a leader dedicated to uplifting the community. However, her rhetoric frequently veered into emotional appeals, accusing her critics of unfairly targeting her because of her race and gender. Throughout the ongoing turmoil, Henyard framed herself as a victim of media attacks and unfair scrutiny, presenting her leadership style as misunderstood. She defended her financial decisions, claiming they were made with the community's best interests at heart. Yet reports of questionable investments, including millions allocated to the general fund without proper oversight or disclosure, further deepened concerns about her financial management. Her failure to address these concerns with transparency only fueled tensions with both residents and the Board of Trustees, who demanded clarity on how taxpayer money was being spent. As criticism mounted, Henyard became increasingly unwilling to engage directly with the public. She focused more on grand declarations about her leadership and deflected blame onto her critics, alleging that their negativity hindered the progress she sought to achieve. When news outlets attempted to gather more information, she avoided questions entirely, dodging inquiries about her financial decisions and the ongoing issues. This deflection and avoidance of accountability sparked frustration among residents and trustees, many of whom expressed deep dissatisfaction with her leadership at public meetings. Tensions reached a boiling point, with attendees calling for her resignation and accusing her of prioritizing personal and political ambitions over the needs of the community. Despite growing opposition, Henyard maintained her stance, dismissing the critiques as unfounded attacks on her character and accomplishments. Her defensive rhetoric, which often included sharp jabs at those questioning her, only deepened divisions within the community. She presented herself as a fighter for the people and a champion of progress, but her actions continued to raise doubts about her true priorities and the direction in which she was leading Dalton.